Now, Wellness Wednesday on Fox 54 News, sponsored by WeGenesis.
You're 99 years old, yet you're still going out and doing everything just like anyone else would at my age, at 25 or 30 or 40. I guess, kind of, what's it like to be nearly 100 years old and yet still pushing forward?
Well, I'm just pushing to live for the next day. And I love it, and I love Cedar Springs, and I love the people, and if you stay active, you're going to be happy.
Now, speaking about staying active, you are still doing water aerobics, especially. I guess what's kind of your secret to just still being able to go out there and take part in that physical activity?
How do I start? Okay, I like to go swimming. I've been swimming since I was 5 years old because that's all we could do in those days. You know, it was a bad time, prejudice, but it's not that anymore. Anyway, so it was a park called City Park, and they had a big pool, and I lived there. My mother used to bring my lunch, and I used to swim and jump out of diving boards and did all kinds of sports there because that's the only place you could go. So I grew up there and I stayed there every day. And then in the wintertime, we went to a place called Epworth, and they had inside games and things like that. I kept myself busy there. I'm always busy. I always like sports. I played baseball, but I couldn't compete because, you were Mexican, So anyway, but I did what I could do, and I did it, and I was happy. And I did follow the rules in those days, because you had lots of rules. You couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. So anyway, it was nice. And then when World War II broke out, they were going to put me in Queenie Heaven. It was like an orphanage. They would just come and take you. And my mother, so I ran away.
Oh.
So I ran away when I was 16 years old, and I went to San Francisco, and I started working all over the place until they kept telling me, you got to bring your birth certificate, you got to bring your birth certificate. So I said no. So anyway, I worked in the railroad, and I worked in the shipyard, I worked canning peaches, and I worked usher at the movie theater, because you could get all kinds of jobs there during the wartime. And I worked all over, everything, anything you could think of, I worked. But anyway, I was there, and then I used to go to the suites, and they had a great big ball up on the top, and all the sailors and the soldiers and the Marines, it was the USO. And the big bands would come in there, and I loved to dance, my sister and I. We used to go dancing, jitterbug. They didn't have this square dancing and all that. But we had a good time, I had a good life, and I swore I wasn't going to get married because during the war. But then I met my husband, and he kept pestering me. So we got married when I was 19, and then he lived in Michigan, and we moved to Michigan, and we lived in Melvindale, and we started having children because I was Catholic. I'm not Catholic no more because they got too many rules. And I was a good Catholic. I had 8 kids. Miracle I didn't have 20. And anyway, I raised all my family there, and I got a good family. They're all good, very nice to me and everything. People that don't have children are going to be sorry when they get old because you got to depend on your kids. And anyway, I got one daughter here, and all the rest of them are scattered. And then I started to work for the school, and I worked for the school because I had lost a son. He had just gotten out of the Navy, and he got in an accident. It was during Vietnam War. And anyway, I was down and all, and they said, some lady says, why don't you go work for the school? And I said, I don't have no education because they couldn't teach you in school when I was little because they couldn't speak the Spanish and they couldn't speak Indian, American Indian or anything like that. So they give you crayons and paper and you draw and draw and draw. So we learned to speak English by the radio and by going to the movies because they were only for pennies. The way we used to get the pennies was we used to go pick up bottles and then give them to the paper shop, And then they would give you pennies and 2 pennies, and you could get in the movies for 3 cents. And we learned to speak English because it was mostly cowboys. And of course, you had to go upstairs. You couldn't go to the mezzanine. No, 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 that was a no-no. So anyway, we went out the side door to the mezzanine, and you had to stay there. You couldn't get out there. So anyway, after the show, they let the people in the mezzanine leave. Then we leave. It was bad, but you were used to it. You know that if you were in the sidewalk and the white people would come, you had to get off.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad. And, okay, I'll come down a little bit. And in the grocery stores, if you were already ordering your groceries and white people come in, you had to step aside.
Okay,
Wow.
It was bad. It was a time when the blacks were having all these troubles. Well, we were having problems too. But my mother kept us in the house, and then every time there was riots, she would lock the doors and put big blankets on the windows. We lived in the dark, and we knelt down and prayed. But anyway, that's the way I grew up. But I was used to growing up like that. You know, with the prejudice, you had riots and lots of fights. So my mother was real good. I was happy because I loved sports. I loved to play baseball. Anyway, that's how I grew up. And we could go to Curtis Park, and that was only for Mexicans, Indians, American Indians, and the blacks. And I get along with all of them. We played baseball. We could go to training if you had $100. And they would train you to maybe go to the Olympics, because at that time it was all, you didn't have professionals. It was just amateurs. So I couldn't go. My sisters couldn't go. My brothers, I had 2 brothers that used to play baseball, and buses would come with baseball players, and they would play. And anyway, they saw my 2 brothers, and we're huelas, we're light, we're not dark. So they said to my 2 brothers, come and sign up, we'd like to sign you up. So when they went to sign up, and they told them their nationality, they says, we can't take you.
Wow.
And that's the way it was with me. I couldn't go to all this other training because I was pretty good too. I could play ball, I could swim, I could dive out of big diving boards. Everybody would stand up to make sure I got up out of the water. But that was life, but that was the way you were raised until I was 15. And my sister came over, and she says that there were going to come people come and talk to me. And I knew right off the bat what they were going to do. They were going to put me in Queenie Heaven. And they left you there until you were 18. Just take you. My sister was there for 3 years. And so anyway, I ran away.
Wow.
And then I lived by my sister in San Francisco.
Now, when you kind of apply kind of all that, kind of your history, does that kind of push you forward with like kind of wanting to keep moving at your age with doing activity?
I was bad. I was ready to fight because you had to fight. You had to fight gangs, going, all that. So anyway, I got that right away, but I got better.
And at your age, of course, you're 99. I guess being able to keep this activity going. Do you kind of take that from your childhood of kind of having to grow up with racism?
Well, I was afraid to come here. I was afraid that they wouldn't accept me. And Mary says, oh, they'll accept you. And I says, I don't know, Mary. And then they showed me a brochure where people were in suits and all dressed up. And I said, now I know I don't belong there. And so, but they were nice. This is a place to come if you have to leave your homes. It is wonderful here. The staff, the cooks, they come and clean your house, and they're right there if you need any help. You couldn't ask for anything better. I am so lucky. So the way I lived when I was little, I lived in houses where there was no floor. There was just slabs.
So I guess for kind of one of my final questions, being able to kind of do what you are at your age, you kind of talked about your childhood, you spoke about kind of having to grow up. I guess being able to kind of do this activity at your age, I guess what advice would you give to
I
how the
would
seniors
give
is?
them to go to the pool. The water's warm, and the instructor is great, and I love it. And I can stand in the water and not move in the deep part.
Oh wow.
I just stand there, bob. But I love water because that holds you up. And I used to do laps, but I can't do just maybe once. But I can do aerobics real good, and I love it. And I advise the people here, if they can do it, go. Because there's nice ramps, and I wish they would go because I would love company. And they're very nice there too.
Now, when it comes to especially aerobics, what do you think? Maybe just like kind of doing it in the weightlessness of the water. Is it just that physical activity? Do you think that helps you, be able to stay active every
yes.
day?
If I wasn't for aerobics, my legs would go gone. I'd be in a wheelchair. But I do all those exercises and it works. And it works. And they give you exercise here too.
All right. Is there anything that you want to add, or maybe I might have missed that you want to talk about also?
I would tell them that if this is the place for them to come because it's the second home, and maybe it'd even be better than the first home.
So, your mother is 99 years old. I guess with that longevity, that's something you don't exactly take for granted. With her being able to still go out and do everything that she can, do you kind of attribute everything to kind of her water aerobics and being able to go out and still do exercise?
I think the water aerobics is excellent for her. She stays busy, she loves it, giving her physical exercise, but even mentally, I'm amazed at how sharp she is. She remembers things way back, a lot more than I remember, but I think that with her swimming, it gives her something to look forward to. Living here is wonderful. She's made a lot of good friends, but the opportunity to get up in the morning makes her get up, get that swimsuit on, and then she goes to the pool. So I think she enjoys not just the aerobics part of it, but also the camaraderie of other people there at the pool.
Now, you talked about that mental stimulation. I just spoke with her also. Just being able to remember like parts of her childhood, especially, in vivid detail of her kind of growing up. I guess that activity, that has to be playing a part just to keep that brain active.
Oh yeah, I think that the swimming helps to keep her mentally focused. But what she can remember, we sat down not long ago, and she's lived through 17 presidents. She's gone through 17 elections with presidents. And as we were sitting there one day having some coffee, she was saying, I remember, and she was back to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Truman. She remembered all these details about them. She remembered Eleanor Roosevelt throwing pennies off the back of a train, a caboose, and she was one of the children out there getting the pennies off the ground. She mentioned how Eleanor was wonderful with starting the soup kitchens. She just remembered so much of all these previous presidents, what each one did, what each one could have done, didn't do, should have done, did do. She's just got a great recall altogether.
And I guess, my last question kind of really, this activity, are you surprised, I guess, kind of just to put it bluntly, that 99 years later, your mother is still here, just basically kicking it every single day?
Yeah, I'm loving it. All of her kids, we've got 7 of us, 7 siblings. I'm the only one living here in Alabama, but we're all just amazed because when they call or they FaceTime her, first of all, she's 99. She has a smartphone. She knows how to FaceTime, text message, look at her Facebook pages. It's just, we just are in awe that she's able to do this. But I think that with all the kids, we just look at her and we're inspired. Being with her all the time, we're still inspired because we know what she's gone through and how she grew up and what a survivor she is. It's just truly amazing to all of us. We're going to have a big family reunion in July of this year, and we're going to celebrate her 100th birthday. Even though her 100th isn't until November, this summer we're going to have the whole family. It's going to be a ton of people, just a ton.
All right, and is there anything I might have missed or glossed over that you want to add?
I can't think of anything. I think if anything, she taught us about love. She and my dad had an amazing marriage for 69 years before he passed away. The siblings, the love for each other is just outstanding. I think that just observing them and how they interacted daily is what helped us.
All
And
right.
the laughter and humor.